Yeah.
At the RSVP offices of Catholic Services of Macomb, located at 26238 Ryan Road, Warren, Michigan. Mr. Monte Milliron.
Mill iron.
Mill Iron.
Like there's a hyphen
Okay, I
between.
got you. Mill Iron. And I forgot to ask you, it's 85.
Yes.
85. Date of birth is October the 22nd, 1925. Mr. Milliron currently resides at 28056 North Clemens, Livonia. And I live in Mount Clemens.
Oh, Mount Clemens, all right.
My name is Dave Brousseau, and I'll be the interviewer. And Marilyn
Radlicki,
I'm sorry, will be the videographer. Mr. Milliron, would you state for the record the branch of service that you served?
United States Navy.
All right. Let's go back before you got in so we can get a little background. I'd like to know where you went to school and a little bit about your family before you enlisted or drafted.
I went to Guyton Grade School, Jackson Intermediate, and Southeastern High.
That's in Detroit?
Detroit, yes, all in Detroit.
Is that still in existence?
Southeastern is,
Yeah.
yes. I think that's the only one. The Jackson, the intermediate school and the grade school are gone.
Mm-hmm. What about your family at that time?
I have a sister, still have the sister. She's a year and a half younger than I. And my mother and my father. My father was in World War I in the
Oh my.
Army from Ohio. He was a Buckeye. And we also lived with my grandparents, my grandmother and grandfather, on my father's side.
Now, did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was drafted. My cousin and I were close as brothers, and he got into the Marine Corps. So that was my goal, go to the Marine Corps. So I went down to enlist in the Marine Corps, and at that time they were not taking men with glasses. They wouldn't. They said, no, you can't. We won't accept you. So I said, okay, well, I'll just go back home and take my chances. Well, and then I was inducted into the Navy in December of 1943.
At that time, how did you view the war? Was that something on your mind or?
Well, initially, when it first started, my cousin and I, when Pearl Harbor was attacked, my cousin and I had been to a movie theater in Grosse Pointe, and we come out and we heard somebody had a radio on the bus. We were taking a bus back home, and we didn't know where Pearl Harbor was. We weren't sure where Pearl Harbor was. We knew we were attacked, but then as time went on, we found out where that occurred, and we were both ready to go into service. We wanted to go, and
Why?
because we felt that our country needed us, and so that was our single thought. And my cousin got into the Marine Corps, and I was so disappointed that I couldn't get into the Marine Corps. I probably was fortunate. My cousin lived, but there were a lot of good men died in the Marine Corps and in the Army, and in the Navy also. But when I was inducted, they told me that they said, "Oh, stamped special assignment on my papers." And
why do you think that?
but my man said, well, of classes, and he said, he says, you won't leave the States. You'll always be on shore. And I said, okay, fine. So they sent me to Sampson, New York, to up Finger Lakes, and we went through boot camp there. and then was finished boot camp, got home for 2 weeks leave, and then I took some tests, and they said, you should, I want to be a carpenter, ship's carpenter. And they said, no way. I knew what a screwdriver and a pair of pliers were, and adjustable wrenches, so that you gotta be an electrician. So they sent me to Bainbridge, Maryland, to electrician school.
What was it like when you got your notice? What did your mom and dad think? Draft notice.
I think they knew it. I've never talked to them about that, but I think they knew it, they understood it, and that they knew that I was gonna go. And
So they were sort of prepared.
yeah, they were prepared, yes. Yeah, it wasn't out of the blue. They knew I was called down for a physical, so I went for my physical. And
Did you have any thoughts about the war at that time?
other than the fact that I wanted to beat Germany. Yeah.
Okay, you join up, and where's the first place you're sent for boot?
Sampson, New York. Sampson, New York. They had a big naval training station on Seneca Lake, in the Finger Lakes. And we were up there dead of winter. It was in December, last of December. We went up there, my group. And it was cold. And we were on a lake, Lake Seneca. And went through the boot training.
Did that kind of activity bother you or surprise you?
No, I think my biggest concern was passing swimming. And I wasn't a great swimmer, but by the time they got finished with you, you were a pretty good swimmer. You had to be able to swim quite a distance, about 50 feet or so, away from a ship if it were sinking.
Yes. It's surprising to some people. They think all Navy people swim, and that's
Yeah, no,
just not true.
that wasn't my forte. But
So how long was boot?
16 weeks.
And this would have been
In December, we went in December 22nd.
1943?
43, December of 43. And then we were sent on boot camp. We went to boot camp, and then we were on leave from boot camp after we had finished boot camp training, and after a couple of months.
When did you get yourself assigned as an electrician? Was this the result of some strength you showed in boot, or was it, this is what we need?
I think it was more on need, although they knew that from my history in the enlisting that I had been a carpenter with my grandfather, worked as a carpenter, and so they, like I said, I knew what a hammer was, how to use a claw hammer, how to use Phillips screwdriver, standard screwdriver, pliers, and so we need men in electrical.
So where do they send you now out of boot?
Well, they sent me to Bainbridge, Maryland, and that was the electrician school in Bainbridge,
And
Maryland.
how long is that going to take? Do you remember?
No, 6 to 8 weeks.
Amazing what they can teach you in 6 or 8
Oh
weeks,
boy,
huh?
I'll say, and how, yeah. But yeah, as we found out later, there'd be a lot of on-board training, hands-on.
Well, but this is pretty
Yeah.
concentrated
Great,
stuff.
yes.
This isn't going to make you an electrician, but
No.
it'll certainly give you the basics.
Yeah, know what the
They
touch
need an aptitude, and once they got that, they can go to town with you.
Yes, exactly.
All right, what was that like, that 6 to 8 weeks? Are you back to a more normal kind of civilian type life?
Oh, no, it was,
I mean, you get up and go to work at 9, you come home at 5, kind of routine?
well, we lived in barracks, and it was, Yeah, we had our schooling, and at the end of the day, then we would have chow dinner time, and then you could relax in the evening. It was in the barracks, and but there was always and periodically we would stand guard duty in the schools, and that's a 24-hour situation. We didn't stand 24 hours, but we had 4 hours on as guards in the school buildings when there was nobody there. And
How did you rank coming out of the school?
oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't believe at that time if they gave a ranking. I'm not sure.
I mean, they had to have some way to evaluate whether you were at the top of the class or the bottom, eh?
They may have, but I didn't. I wasn't aware of it.
Did everybody that you were in school with get assigned to a ship at that time?
Not everybody. We had some fellows that were some of them were real hot shots at the time.
Ooh.
And so they thought they were just a little bit above everybody else and pretty smart. And they wound up in, what was that? After electrician school, instead of being assigned a ship, they were assigned combat duty. They got helmets, rifles, boots, and I forget what we called that in the, there was a special unit. It was more or less of a fighting unit. You'd have thought they were more like a Marine.
Wow.
And a couple of hotshots, they were moaning. They didn't anticipate that, but and I can't recall just what the world that unit was called. But they had fatigue greens, and they had, like I said, they had helmets and that. We didn't.
So you're finished with electrician school. Where do you go now?
Come out of there, third class seaman in the engineering division. And
3 stripes?
yeah, and went to Norfolk, Virginia to transfer. I didn't know at the time, but it was going to be aboard ship. So
So you were assigned a ship at that point?
Oh yeah, I got down to Norfolk, Virginia, and I had this AE4 Mount Baker. Nobody knew what that was aboard there at the station. And until I kept asking guys that had been out to sea, and finally this one guy said, "Man, I'd go over the hill if I were you." And I said, "Why?" He says, "If you get hit, you go up, you don't go down." I said, "What, it's an aircraft carrier?" He said, "No." He says, "It's an ammunition ship."
Wow.
So, and he was right, it was an ammunition ship. And so I was put on troop transport, and we went to Oran, Africa.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay.
Yep, we went to Oran, Africa. And,
So you shipped out right after?
right afterwards.
You didn't even have time to go out and see what kind of equipment you were working with, eh?
No.
Now,
Oh,
is this work dedicated to the operation of the ship?
Right.
So,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, everything electrical. Right away, they trained you on standing watch on the generator board. So we had to stand watch on that. Learn how to transfer the generators from one to another.
How big a crew would you say is the electronic crew?
We had about, I would say 15 to 20.
No.
Some of the pictures in there, this is part of the electric, that's the engineering division, the Holden division. Well, I thought I had one of the, yeah, that's our electrician school, crew, part of them. It's not all of us.
This is the one that was aboard ship.
Yes.
So now, where are you headed?
We went to, on this troop transport I was sent, we went to Oran, Africa. My ship was in Oran. And so they took us off of the ship when we got to Oran, and we went in to a receiving station in the desert. And the next day I was taken to my ship, the Mount Baker.
Now, when you went to Africa, was that the first time you'd been on the ocean or on water?
Yes.
How was your trip?
The first couple of days out of Norfolk, I was seasick. I was, like they say, first you're afraid you're going to die, then you wish you would die.
I'm not sure what comes first, but I understand what you're saying. It isn't, I wanna, I'm sick, it's, I wanna die, I want out of here.
Yeah, I was sick, but I got first, very quickly wanted to die.
And right out of Norfolk is a place called the Graveyard of the Atlantic. It's, I don't know what's there, but it is always rough. And we're talking about big, long swells.
Oh, yes.
20, 30 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
And these little ships bob like...
Oh, well, this was a pretty good-sized troop transport. And it was...
But they're not deep hulled, so
No.
they rock.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And so, yeah, it was...
I say, what happens now? You're down there in your group assignment now. What's going on?
On the troop transport or
No,
aboard
assigned
ship?
to your...
Aboard ship? Yeah. Well, first they all welcomed me aboard. They were really a nice group of guys in that shop, and in fact the whole engine, the whole ship, we had a lot of good guys, and so they started me in training right away as to how to change those particular light bulbs. And initially, basically, they wanted to get me on the standing watch on the generator board, where we would have our generators running. And that was quite tricky. And you had to, when you were bringing a new generator on and going to take one off, you had to make sure that they had voltage and ampere ratings. And you had to make sure that your voltage was the same as the one that's running, and then your amperage was the same as running, and it became extremely tricky if we were moving cargo, because they would fill the winch and they'd draw more amperage, and so you had to be very, very careful. We had these great big three-pronged levers going into the board, and so we'd get one up to speed, and we'd throw that in, and then as soon as it caught and was running, then we would disconnect the generator that was running at the time. And we had two big generators and one we called a donkey. And it did lighter work. It couldn't handle the whole ship's electricity and cargo movement. So, but the donkey would, they would run it at night if we weren't moving cargo.
Excuse me, Dave, did you ever turn on or turn off that recorder?
I turned it back on.
Thank you.
I did turn it off, and I did turn it back
I
on.
was missing.
Thank you.
I saw him.
My job is nagging about that.
I don't most of the time,
Oh.
so that was
No,
why she checks.
he does, but if I don't check, then that's the time that he didn't do it, so. You know how that works.
Okay, so now what happens? You're getting familiar with your little love bug here.
Right. And we're, so then we're told that we're going to weigh anchor and move up to Algiers. So we went up to Algiers.
How much poop do you get on this when you find out you're moving? Do you understand where you're going? Do you know where you're going? Do you know what's going to happen?
At this point, from Oran to Algiers wasn't, we knew where we were going. Right away, they told us we're going to get underway and go to Algiers and anchor in the harbor up there. And so we which isn't a whole long distance, but I don't know how many miles, but, we,
A week?
oh, no, a day or two.
Oh.
Day or
okay.
two underway. And so when we set up there, and then the war ended in Europe, and they said, okay, you're going to the Pacific.
Oh, so you're one that, okay, we've been hearing that
Yeah.
frequently, that
We
rumor has some of you are going over there.
Wow. We were going to the Pacific. So we had another ammunition ship working with us at the time, the USS Nitro. And so they said, okay, you and the Nitro are going to go to Europe, I mean to the Pacific. And we're going to give you 2 destroyers as escorts. So now the war was over in Europe. And we had destroyer escorts through the Mediterranean, out through the, past Rock of Gibraltar.
Okay,
We went down south to Panama.
yeah. Go through the canal?
Yeah, we went through the canal, but we anchored, not anchored, we in Panama, we were right at a wharf, and we tied up to this wharf, which is strange, because generally they want ammunition ships as far away from everything as they
Yeah.
can, but we happened to be tied up at this wharf.
Were you loaded?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. We had, then we had an ensign that come aboard about the same time as I did. I can't remember his name now. But he went up to our skipper, who was Leroy Brooks, who was our lieutenant commander. He was the owner of the bicycle playing cards in Ohio. And so the ensign walked up to the skipper and said, Skipper, my dad owns this warehouse here. And in this warehouse are kegs of 180 proof rum.
Mm.
With your permission, we could bring some aboard.
Mm.
Captain said, you have my permission. So they brought the couple of barrels. They were not big barrels, but not 50 gallon, but 20, maybe 20 gallons. And so they brought those aboard. Then we went through the canal and into the Pacific, and our destroyer escorts left us.
Mm.
And now we were in active war in the Pacific.
Mhm.
So the Nitro left before us, and then we followed after her. And we went across the Pacific with no
Whoa.
escorts whatsoever. So that was kind of hairy.
Now,
But
where was embark from here? Oh, you're over on the,
on the west coast of Panama,
okay.
the Panama Canal.
Okay, so you're actually going through the pretty tough stuff. Where are you headed?
Well, we were headed for NOE talk in the Marshalls.
So you're going right through where a lot of the activity is going on.
But fortunately, we had some engine trouble. And we were passing Hawaii.
Oh, gosh.
So we got, of course, they wouldn't let us in through a harbor. They let us into the harbor, but not into a dock. And so we had to anchor out. And we had engine trouble, and so we were given port and starboard liberties. And so we went aboard the beach.
What was the condition of the harbor now, a couple of years later? Still
Still, it was congested. Yeah.
quite ragged?
Yeah, although we went in dinghies, the ship didn't maneuver in there, so we were out.
Oh, you would have a hard time, it's not deep enough.
No, so, and we didn't, but there was another story on the way to Panama. I forgot about it. We stopped at St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, and all 4 ships were there. We had stopped there. We had about 300 men complement on each ship. And of course, there were great rivalries between the ammunition ships, and there were great rivalries between the fighting ships, the destroyers. And everybody was better than the other one. And buddy of mine, we didn't drink, so on our Liberty, we had the starboard Liberty was first, and we went on a tour. We went up to the Bluebeard's Castle. We went to see what that was like. I don't remember a thing about it, other than the fact that my buddy and I were walking down this hill from Bluebird's Castle. Everything was dirt roads. The St. Thomas village where St. Thomas was a dirt road at the time. They had little shops on either side of the road, maybe 20, 25 feet apart across, and they had Dutch doors. They were open to the public, and the bars had swinging doors on them. We come down this, and it was so impressed me with a Walt business. What the heck is his name? Wallace Beery.
Oh, yeah.
Wallace Beery. It was an old Wallace Beery movie. Coming down this hill, this trail, you could see sailors fighting, and you could see them flying out of the bar backwards, and a guy come running out and pick them up. Well, these guys had these rivalries between ships, and they were drinking, and all they had was some wine over there in Africa.
Dangerous combination.
And yes, and so they were drinking and fighting, and we had my buddy and I couldn't believe the amount. So we made sure we just got around all of the fighting, got back aboard ship, and then everybody had to get back from the starboard Liberty, and so you figured there was what 300, 600 guys hitting the beach at one time. And this is just at that time it was a very small town, very rustic, and it was really wild. Well, we got back aboard ship, and then each ship had to supply shore patrol, and so first tour wasn't bad for the shore patrol. Second, when the port side Liberty started, the shore patrol was going to be shore patrol had all were drunk, and so it was a wild day, and we had lots of excitement. Some of the guys one of the warrant officers wanted to fight the Minson and aboard ship, and they got that quelled. But it was an exciting time. But that was like I said, it just reminded me of an old Wallace Beery movie when he was supposed to be a sailor, but so then anyway we were through the Panama Canal and out in the Pacific, went to Hawaii, had a wonderful time on the beach there. Everybody, there was about 6 or 8 of us. We went to this nice restaurant, and everybody wanted a gallon of milk and a steak, and that's what we had. A gallon of, everybody drank a gallon of milk and a steak, and then not a gallon, a quart of milk. That's exaggerating. But it was, so we had a nice time there, nice stay there. We went down to Waikiki Beach and got a picture in there of Waikiki, and with some of my buddies.
So how long were you in Hawaii?
Just one day. I mean, we were just on Liberty for one day.
Bummer.
Yeah, but we made the most of it.
Good for you.
We made the most of it. We enjoyed it, had a lot of fun.
What did it make you feel like in the harbor when you saw all that mess still there?
Yeah, sick,
I'm
really.
sure
It was disgusting. Yeah. But and then we, more than ever, wanted to beat Japanese. More than ever. Yeah. So. Yeah, so then we moved on from that. We went to Inuiatok, and then we anchored in Ulithi Atoll in the Western Carolines. Not too far from the Philippines, a few hundred miles.
Now, most of all of this had been taken back by this time by the US
Yes,
and its partners.
yes.
So there wasn't much attitude out there. We'd already taken over the air space, and
Well, yeah, with the fact that
Japanese had pulled back
we
quite a
had,
bit.
we had kamikazes.
Oh, that's right.
We had kamikazes. They bypassed Yap Island, which was close to Ulithi. But Yap was just a little bit south of Ulithi Atoll.
Yeah, you'd have been a real. Are you noticeable to the Japanese as to what you are? Can they tell you're an ammunition ship from?
They could tell that we were a cargo ship, but they couldn't tell whether we were ammunition or not.
Okay,
Yeah, because all the cargo ships looked the same.
okay.
And,
So you weren't waving an ammunition flag to
no,
them?
no. We had, although they had we had 6 ammunition ships, a couple of Navy ammunition ships, and then the rest were privately owned ships that brought ammunition out to us. And then we would transfer it to the fighting ships. And so there we had a row of 6 way off to one end of the Ulithi Atoll. And shortly after we got there, an aircraft carrier, this was a huge atoll, a huge place. There had hundreds of ships, aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and it was a big atoll and a good harbor. And so there was a Japanese submarine came in underneath an aircraft carrier.
Really?
And nobody knew it at the time. And one of the, we were in line, and so we were told we have to change berths with the ship in front of us. So we switched berths with the one in front of us. And that was in the evening. The next morning, we were at chow line for breakfast. And we're standing in chow line, and all of a sudden we get vroom, and the whole ship just kind of rocks back, and GQ went right away.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, my station was on the starboard side of the stack. So I got up there, I got a big helmet and earphones and all that stuff, and found out that the ship that we changed berths with, the Japanese fired a torpedo, hit that ship, and that's what our concussion was swaying, but it went in between 2 hulls, and it didn't detonate. Now, if it had gone off, every ship there would have gone up. We would have just detonated each other, blowing up. So it, but I had a beautiful spot. I was up there right out in plain view of everybody. It had a big spotlight up there, a big searchlight, but this was daylight. And but I could see the destroyers and the destroyer escorts. They were just weaving back and forth, dropping death charges.
Trying to find that little sucker.
And they got him.
They did?
They got him, oh yeah. Within a very short time afterwards, they got him. And so that was exciting.
Did it ever surface? The sub?
No, but they knew they got him for some reason. They knew, I guess there was no movement. They couldn't hear him. They couldn't do a thing. It was a small sub.
Oh, one of the small ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
small sub. And so then the only other action we got was a Japanese kamikazes. One night they came in.
So you did see them, eh?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yes, indeed, they were in the, we had the USS Randolph over to our starboard, several hundred yards away, maybe 300 yards, 400 yards. And they got hit by a kamikaze. and the island right next to us, we were near an island, and another plane dived into the island, thinking it was a ship, I guess. And so we had just opened up a hole. One of the, I don't know whether it was a cruiser, battleship, wanted some ammunition, so we had a hole open. Naturally, it would be the hole where we were having a movie that night. And so we had to take everything off and pontoons off and open up the hole, give them the ammunition, and then they started this attack as we were transferring ammunition. Well, then everything went black. We had to turn out all the lights, get the hole closed up as fast as possible, and get ready for action. So we were in action for a couple of hours, and then it was done. But it got your heart beating fast.
I'm sure.
At the time, and because our sister ship, the Mount Hood, she blew up in further south of us, and it just looked like an atomic bomb.
No, I'm sure.
With all the ammunition on board, so we knew what could happen. But I felt pretty safe on board that ship for some reason. I felt as scary as riding on 10,000 ton of ammunition sounds. It was, I felt safe, and so, and it turned out I was. So then we, after a year out there, we went back to get outfitted, and then the war ended in Japan. And then we made one more run. We went south to the Admiralty Islands, and so during my Navy tours, I became a shellback and a Golden Dragon. And Golden Dragon for crossing the 180th meridian, shellback for crossing the equator, south of the equator. So we were at the Admiralty Islands.
They have any
Oh yeah, King Neptune came. King Neptune came aboard.
big deal.
Oh yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, we had a lieutenant. It was not a shellback, and so he had to stand duty on the bridge with firefighting gear on and 2 Coke bottles taped together as binoculars.
Total nonsense, but you know, it's a big
Right?
deal.
Yeah, it was big. It was a big deal.
deal.
Yeah, and so King Neptune and his court came aboard, and we had quite a time that day. It was fun. It was fun.
It's worth it. Those are events you don't forget.
Those are right. No, it was fun. It was fun, and we enjoyed that. We enjoyed that. So then we went on to the Philippines. Later, we went to San Francisco, got re-outfitted, was really heavily armored then, and then we went to.
Why do you think that happened?
Well, we were in San Francisco when the war ended with Japan. So, and they were already in process of re-outfitting us, putting new guns on us.
Why?
We were going back out.
Well, the war is over.
The war is over, but well, then we went back, we took mail out, and we picked up some men from the Philippines and brought them back.
But why do you think all the retrofitting of the armament and armor and...
Well, they figured we needed to be better protected, or we could protect ourselves better. And
probably an update more than anything.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
that needed to be done. And
From a 5-inch 51 to a 5-inch 38, and then to 20 caliber twins to 40 caliber, and so we just were more heavily equipped with armor and ready to do battle. But
sounds like fitting for an aircraft
yeah,
fight, which is really what was left is, you know, the planes that were coming at you to dive. And
yes, right, yeah, that was their mode.
so where were you when the war ended?
In San Francisco. Yeah, in San Francisco.
Tell me about that. How did you find out? What did everybody think?
Well, it was really exciting. We were happy very well pleased, didn't know we were gonna go back out, we'd make one more run. But we were just extremely happy that the war was over and that we had won.
You know, there was an extended period that occurred, I don't know how many people knew this, but the flight out of, what island was that? The B-29 took off from,
No, I don't know, Guam? I don't
No.
know, not to Guam.
Linium, anyhow. The first bomb was dropped.
Yeah,
And then the
yeah.
second one,
Right,
they were actually on the way to an ammo dump, oil ammo dump, when the final word had come that
mhm,
they, what do they call them? What's the name of the leader? The Japanese,
Imperial.
Imperial,
uh,
what do they call
The emperor.
them? Emperor,
Emperor, yeah,
finally acquiesced, and
yeah.
so there was a time period. I don't know how many people knew of that. Did anybody of your group know anything was going on?
No, 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 no. We were in the States at that time and was not aware of anything happening until we heard of the surrender.
Some of the people we've interviewed were part of the transport of the bomb,
Oh,
the Independence,
Enola Gay,
in
yeah.
Olegay, and were aware something was happening, but didn't know
Yeah, no, we had no idea.
precisely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when the first one dropped, there was a waiting period, and I think it was a couple days before the second one, and then they still hung on
Yes,
until the final. So it gets announced how? How did you find out? Rumor? Front page of the newspaper? Do you remember?
no, I don't recall. Don't recall.
How did you feel?
Great.
I'm sure.
We felt great.
Nobody's gonna be shooting at me
Yeah,
anymore.
that's right. That's right, exactly. We felt terrific. It was just a wonderful, euphoric feeling. And
Sure.
I don't know when or how I heard of that, but I know it was. I remember it was a great feeling, but how it happened, I don't know. Can't recall.
So did everybody know why you were going back after the war ended?
Yes, we knew that we were going to make a mail run.
Okay,
We were going to take mail out and bring
okay.
some.
So nobody's really this worried.
Oh no, it was.
I mean, this was
Yeah, it's close to a
milk run,
cruise
so to
ship
speak.
cruise as it could be. Yeah, it was. Yeah, we knew we're not going to combat.
Yeah.
At least we hoped we weren't.
And how long were you gone?
A couple of months.
A couple of months.
Yeah, a couple of months.
And where precisely did you end up? Any area of notice?
On the trip, that last trip out.
Yeah.
Well, we went to Tacloban Lake
Okay.
in the Philippines, and we went there, delivered mail, picked up some troops, and brought them back and discharged them in another in the Pacific in another station, and then we came on back home.
Any time to visit while you were in the Philippines?
No, no,
Just
just in there for a day, getting the mail transferred off, and then get the troops
you
on.
must have gone to some other places than just there, right?
No, no.
Well, you said you were gone for a couple months.
Well, it took a couple of weeks to get back and forth. We went about 20 knots.
Right.
And so it took us a long time to get anywhere.
Seems to be the standard speed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tinian was the island I'm
Tinian,
talking
okay,
about.
yeah.
Tinian is where,
All right, but they
and
took the
we
bus.
had some folks that were involved with the shipment, and then the folks that were involved with the air base
Yes.
in Tinian,
Yes,
and then there was, so it was just pieces.
Yes.
No one put them together. but
yes,
suspected something was happening, but didn't know what.
Yeah, no, we had no idea what was going on.
Okay. So after that little run, what happened then?
Well, we went back to Seattle, and I had enough points to be discharged. And I was married at the time, just young. I married at 18, married my high school sweetheart, and now I've got my sweetheart now. But at the time, I got married in Bainbridge, Maryland. We got married before I went out to sea.
How did you manage that? You're in
Well,
California.
in Bainbridge, Maryland. When I went to electrician school,
Okay,
electrician school, my girlfriend and her mother and my mother came to to Maryland, and we were married at the chapel in Bainbridge, Maryland.
so then she had to go back home.
She went back
You
home.
had to
Yeah, but we wanted to get married.
tippy-toe out to California,
Yeah,
okay?
no, it didn't, not to California. We went to Norfolk,
That's right,
Virginia, and
that's
then
right.
then out
That's right.
to the Pacific. I mean, out to
You took the
Algiers.
long route to California. Okay, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
What was that like? You get married, how long did you stay there?
Oh, just a few days. Just a few days. It was tough.
Good God, I
It was
guess.
tough. It was tough. But we were extremely young. We
Yeah.
wanted it, but we been dating each other for a couple of years, and we both knew that this was what we wanted.
By having the two moms, you certainly had the power unit with you, so that's great.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, they both agreed that it would
I'll be
be okay.
darned. So now, she went back home
Yes.
to,
To come back to St. Clair Shores. She lived in St. Clair Shores.
and she had a job, I expect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So she.
So, how long between the date you got married and the time you saw her again?
Well, it was, let's see.
Year?
About
No?
a year, a little
Yeah.
over a year,
Mhm.
because when I got back to San Francisco, when the ship got back to San Francisco, and we knew that we were going to be there for a while, I had her come out.
Oh, good.
I went out, had a leave, and then I brought her back with me, and we had
How did you go? Fly or train?
train,
Train, boy.
train,
Jeez.
yeah. We took a train.
Well, for your purposes, it really didn't matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
You can have
Yeah.
as much fun on a plane or train rather.
Yeah. No, so it was a train, and ran into a couple of buddies of mine that I went to school with.
Mhm,
They were twins, and they were in the Army,
mhm.
and they were headed back to California also.
So where did you discharge from?
Seattle, well, no, when we came back after the war, and we went to Seattle, we went from Seattle to Great Lakes Naval Training Station,
Oh, no,
and was
goodness.
discharged from there.
Famous Great Lakes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you said something that kind of intrigued me. You said, I figured I had enough points. Is this something that every guy like you keeps track of?
Well,
And you have to go to them and say, by the way, I got enough points,
Oh,
let me
no,
out
no,
of
no,
here?
no, they know, they board ship, they
I've,
knew.
I've heard so many of them
Yeah.
say, I had enough points. Do they religiously keep track of that, so they
I
don't?
think so, I think so. You may have to ring a bell,
Yeah,
but they have the records. They've got the records. All they do is check them. They look at them. Yeah, okay, you've been in action.
Yeah.
You've seen this. You've done this. You're married.
yeah, but
Go.
you got this crew here, do they all know where their point status is?
I would think so.
Yeah, how do you find that out?
Well,
I mean, how did you keep track of
they
it?
told us that there'd be so many points for this, and I don't remember
Yeah.
how. And
Battle zones, how
Yeah.
long?
yeah, married.
Yeah,
and
married,
that
okay,
was
okay,
being married
okay.
was a big thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they have to support her, so, sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure exactly how the points were figured, but
So you went home to get your new wife, you haven't seen for a year. What was that like?
great, great. It was, and then she was there when I left to go back. We were going back to the Philippines. This one last trip after the war was over, and so it was great. It was very difficult leaving,
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
but we had a nice time when we were in San Francisco, and it was.
Oh, nice.
So we did some sightseeing in there.
So you disembark from Seattle and they send you to Great Lakes, and that's the official hook that gets you out. You come home again, now what?
Oh, excuse me, my grandfather, I'd worked with my grandfather before I went into the Navy, and as a carpenter. And so he wanted me to come back and work for him. He had a small business, he was a licensed builder, he built homes in small
And that was a big deal then.
Oh,
Big
yeah.
rush on building homes.
So
all that.
I worked with him for 5 years, and then he made me a partner.
Mm.
And then another 5 years, I think, and he retired. And then I worked, I got my builder's license and worked for 5 years or so. And then a recession hit us back in the 60s, early 60s. And I decided to get out. And so I contacted Metropolitan Life, the gentleman before me. And I got a job with Metropolitan Life as a life insurance salesman. Worked that for 5 years. Didn't like the idea of having to work a lot of nights. And so then I went back into construction, got a job as a foreman. One of my clients owned a building business, and so he said, anytime you want to come to work for me, you come and work for me, tell me. And so I checked with him, he said, sure, okay. So I got a job with him as a foreman, and worked for him for several years, and then things slowed down, and I thought, well, I saw an ad in the paper for the state of Michigan. They wanted carpenters. I said, well, shoot, it's a job. So I applied, got the job, and then it kept encouraging me to take examinations, take tests for different superintendent's positions and that. So I did, and I went from management and budget to the Department of Corrections, and as a superintendent of maintenance at a plant, one of our prisons. And then I had an opportunity to go to Northfield Regional Psychiatric Hospital as director of maintenance, and that's where I retired from.
You get home, is the idea of starting a family the first thing on your mind? Or getting located in a job?
I had a job with my grandmother, I knew that.
So that wasn't a problem?
No. So we had a celebration and conceived in San Francisco when the war was over.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So how many children did you end up having?
3 with my first wife, and 1.
Any children from them?
Oh yeah,
Grandchildren?
I've got what, 8 grandchildren and
Oh,
8 great grandchildren.
good gravy. Okay, now, let's talk about your new bride.
Of 22
No,
years.
he has one in between.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Well,
his third wife.
Oh.
He's my second. Both of our spouses died.
Sorry, didn't leave.
lost
yeah,
his
there was my first wife. I had 2 daughters with her, and she died very young, 25 years old.
Oh, mercy.
She had acute ulcerative colitis, and at the time they couldn't find out what was wrong with her. When they found out what was wrong with her, it was too
Too late.
So then I went 5 years, and with my mother and my grandmother, we raised my 2 girls. And then I met this other lady, which we were married for for 35 years. And she had a son, same age as my oldest daughter. And that was always a story. We'd say, you know, we've got to have 4 children. For their ages, well, 2 or 6. Oh, you had twins. No, there's 3 months difference between their ages. How could that be?
Yeah.
So we let them figure it out, try to figure it out.
Right.
Then we had help.
Interesting.
But, and so then I had a daughter with my second wife, and then for 35 years, and she died of cancer. And then I met Marge, and so
And you've been together 22 some years?
22 years, we're in our 23rd year now, starting.
Wow.
And so she's, I've, one way or another, I don't know whether you call it blessed or cursed, but I've had 3 wonderful women as my wife.
I don't know about blessed or cursed.
Well, I mean, by 2 of them dying.
Yeah.
But I was always fortunate to get another wonderful person.
Come into your life and
So
Wonderful.
it's worked out. I think it's gonna work.
it's nice to,
The only reason he married me, I was the infection control coordinator for the hospital, and he was the director of maintenance at the hospital. And we were going for joint commission, and we needed to be accredited, and I wrote all of the policies for every department. And he was happy that I wrote his, because they were supposed to do it
There you are.
themselves. That's why he married me.
Well, close.
great.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Victory Medal, that's just a,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't mean to
Everybody
minimize
got
it, but you're in the service, there's a victory and you get a Victory Medal.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. You can't refuse it.
What do they call the 1-star Asiatic Pacific, just occupancy?
No, I guess we must have been involved in the battle that I'm not sure of.
Oh, sometimes it's just you occupy that part and
It may be.
everybody in that area gets
It may be. It may be.
European, African, Middle Eastern.
Yeah, that's where we operated in out of Algiers and Iran.
Well, Monty, anything else that you can tell us that
No, I think
you checked out with 3rd class petty officer?
yes. Yeah.
That's nice to make that first
Oh yeah.
level of
Right.
middle management, I guess.
Yeah. Right. They.
From the also
I kept getting letters for a long time. They even were promoting me to 2nd class petty officer, and
If you stay,
if I would come back, and
the money starts getting good from there on.
yeah, right. But I was with my grandfather, and he and I were extremely close, and I wanted to stay with him. So, and he wanted me to stay.
I'm sure. Well, we've
Could you
taken-
explain a couple of the pictures?
Oh,
You
sure.
did 1 or 2 of them, but there's a few others.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I should have looked at these. Looks like we're being invaded by,
Yeah, that was a Ulithi Atoll. That one there that you just picked up was over in Iran, Africa. That's a board ship.
Which one is that?
let me show you. This was where?
On the dock at Iran, Africa.
There.
Okay,
Is that okay?
yep, okay.
Okay. Now, this one here,
Oh, that's the Ulithi Atoll. That was, we had a Navy station on one of the bigger islands, and
Okay.
you could go there, and they would have beer.
this one,
And that's those are natives in
I
Ulithi.
guess.
Ulithi.
in the true
Yeah.
sense of the word.
Yeah, yeah, they were primitive.
Yeah, that's a good description.
Okay.
My goodness. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be with them alone.
It would be scary.
Yeah.
But we went to this, we'd go to the regular station, that's Hawaii.
That was Hawaii?
Yeah. That's at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel grounds.
Okay.
And who are your buddies? As part of the
A couple of the electricians,
ship's complement?
yeah. And that was a ball game at the, in Oran, Africa. That,
Oran, okay, 44?
heavy set officer, that was our Lieutenant Commander Leroy Brooks. He was captain of the ship.
Okay.
Okay. And this was,
In San Francisco, in September 45. That was the ship's party. Our chief and our first class and
Okay.
and then this was your ship,
yeah, that was the electricians,
we
that was
showed-
the E division, the whole, most of the
whole
division,
kit-
not all of
kit
them,
and
but most of them.
caboodle of them, eh?
Most of them.
Okay.
And then, of course, this was the
That's-
history of the
Mount Baker, yeah.
Mount Baker. That should be interesting. And here's your personal letter from Harry Truman.
Right.
Whoops. Who's to know this was
Okay.
run off a lithograph somewhere.
Yeah.
And yes, you were honorably discharged. Damn.
Okay.
And of course, good old Jim Forrestal,
Yep.
we operated with his carrier,
Yes.
which is, at that time, to me, just awesome.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that sucker is one big piece of machinery.
They all are now.
And
Yeah.
at that time, we were still playing around with rubber band airplanes. I mean, these things had jets screaming off that deck
Yes.
that were
Yes.
something to behold.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And this was peacetime when I did that,
Mhm.
and 2-3 times I went, almost each of the 3 times, as I recall, we had to pick flyers out of the dirt and
Oh, uh-huh.
that either didn't make it off the deck or.
Yeah.
Marty, what about Monte Kilauea?
What, Kilauea?
Yeah,
Oh, that was the name of the, yeah. Well, it's in the history. They copied that.
oh,
But it was initially called the USS Kilauea, AE4.
Okay,
And then in the history, they don't say it, but we were told that the Germans claimed that they sank us. So they said, okay, you're sunk. We're gonna change your name.
ah,
So, I mean, that's the story we got.
Pretty
I don't know
easy
whether
way.
how true it is.
pretty easy way to address it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one other question.
Sure.
I've seen this and heard this on several occasions. Maybe you don't know. When information comes of either a capture or they lose track of somebody, does that immediately initiate this letter of that your mom got?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
What-
I don't
What
know.
they call that? Missing in action.
Missing, MIA, yeah, missing in action. I don't know how soon that happens. Don't know.
And what needs to happen for that to get triggered? I would think they wouldn't want to send something like that until they were fairly sure
You would think so.
that you got
Yeah.
lost.
I'm not sure.
Somehow.
Yeah, I don't know the circumstances would
I would think.
probably do that. But
I
it sounds,
can
that
just
sounds
imagine
reasonable.
what your mom would have thought.
Yeah. Of course, she never got that kind of a message.
Yeah,
But they were all, I'm sure, apprehensive. And glad to get us back. So I know my dad was in World War II, I was in World War II, my
yeah,
son
well,
was in the
he'd
Korean.
probably be more consciously aware of that kind of thing and.
Yeah, but he's dead. He's passed away.
Now,
as
did
my
he
mother.
pass away while you were in the service or after?
No, later, quite a bit later.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions, ladies?
No,
All right?
And you, Mom?
No questions?
This is rehash for you, I'm sure.